Looking for a car that'll fool just about everyone? Well, this 2024 Hyundai Elantra N might be the ultimate sleeper. What's it like? Buckle up, my friends. Let's go for a drive. I'm your host, Brian Makse, racer, lover of driving fast, fun things. And on this channel, you get reviews for drivers from drivers. Now, we have driven the original Elantra N in several places on the racetrack in Northern California, all over California roads, as well as my home track at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park. And it was all a blast. But for 2024, Hyundai has made some important changes and updates to the Elantra N. And before we get into what this is like to drive, let's have a look at it in a little more depth. Sure, this is based on the Elantra, but this is a proper factory special, and at the factory they do a number of things that no tuner can do. Among other things, Hyundai stiffens the unibody here throughout, and the only bit that you can see is the rear chassis brace in red that you can see from the trunk. It serves to stiffen this platform, which is exactly what you want from a performance car. Plus, it's got proper seats, a different steering wheel than any other Elantra, and a performance display with a lap timer and data acquisition function. Under the hood is a 2-liter turbocharged 4-cylinder that makes 276 horsepower from 5,500 to 6,000 RPM. There is a 10 horsepower boost by pressing the NGS button on your dual clutch equipped Elantra N, but this one, of course, is the manual. Torque is 289 pounds from 1,450 to 4,500 RPM. In this 2024 model, there are some new motor mounts. They are stiffer. Transmissions available are this 6-speed manual or an 8-speed wet dual clutch. It is front-wheel drive, of course. There is an electronically controlled limited slip diff. The electrically assisted power steering has a quicker rack than any other Elantra, and it's got a rack-mounted assist unit. And for 2024, there's an improved steering gear mount, and they've also reduced friction in the steering system. Suspension's based around McPherson struts at the front, multi-link at the rear, multi-mode dampers, and for 2024, the calibration for the dampers matches all of the updates. Plus, don't forget, this sits 10 millimeters lower than any other Elantra. There are big brakes on this thing with single piston calipers and performance-oriented brake pads. Rotors are 14.2-inch diameter at the front, 12.4 at the rear, and for lovers of this kind of thing, there's a mechanical parking brake. Wheels are 19s and they're forged, which makes them lighter than anything else on any other Elantra, and I think they may be lighter than the 2023 model. Tires are Michelin Pilot Sport 4S's, which are just incredible. We'll talk about those in a little bit. Curb weight of this Elantra N is 3,200 pounds as it sits, but keep in mind, if you do opt for the 8-speed dual clutch gearbox, that adds another 110 pounds to its curb weight. Did you know that 80% of you are not subscribed? Yes, it's true. 80% of you are not subscribed. I checked the data. So if you like the content on this channel, do me a solid, hit that subscribe button, make sure you like this, and if you want to support the channel, please hit up our merch store. Links here, links below. Lots of great stuff for driving enthusiasts like us, including our very popular line of Save the Manuals merch. Now back to your regularly scheduled episode. Fun fact, did you know the N in Hyundai's N brand actually stands for Nürburgring? Yes, indeed. It's inspired by the Nürburgring Nordschleife, and this would be incredible to drive around that circuit. I would definitely not say no to a few laps in this around the Nordschleife. For me, one of the highlights is how I'm seated in this Elantra, and I've got a great interface to the steering wheel and to the pedals. Lots of adjustment in the seat as well as the steering column, and I think anybody up to about 7 feet tall can find a comfortable and effective seating position. One of the other highlights are these front seats. These are just spectacular, incredibly supportive, incredibly comfortable over long distances as well, even despite their basic adjustments. The thing about these seats is they are just perfection for this car. Lots of support for the corners and just lots of support here in the car, and they feel directly connected to the chassis. Very impressed how they've done that. The steering wheel is different from other Elantras, so we've got all of the N buttons. We've got the rev matching button and a couple of N buttons that you can program for different drive modes if you want to do a custom drive mode, as I do. We'll talk about that later in the episode. My relationship to the pedals is perfect. These pedals are laid out perfectly for heel and toe. If you don't know what we're talking about in terms of heel and toe, I'm going to put a link here and below to our heel and toe episode. It's probably the best heel and toe tutorial you can find on YouTube. And if you need to refine your technique or are new to the technique, well, I will help you out in that episode. Great relationship to the shifter as well, and that's easy to manipulate, no issues there. And of course, there's a dead pedal for your left foot for support in those high G corners. The rest of the ergonomics are typical Hyundai, which means they are straightforward and there is really no learning curve. It's very easy to adjust to this Hyundai Elantra N if you're coming from something else. Digital instrument cluster that is configurable, and of course we have Hyundai's modern infotainment system. I do use it on Apple CarPlay, works great. And then of course it does have the N mode where we've got all sorts of information for performance or on-track driving. As I mentioned, there is a little bit of data acquisition going on here, so you can record things like lap times, and if that's important to you, well, you've got it here built into the system. There maybe are some better aftermarket systems, but it's a basic system that will help you improve your driving on track. In terms of spaciousness, well, it starts with lots of headroom here in this front row, and you and your passenger, front seat passenger, have lots of room. There's lots of places to store your stuff as well. There is a wireless charger here, and it is switchable in case you want to store other stuff in that spot. In the second row, because this is a modern Elantra, it's got a longer wheelbase and there's lots of room, at least behind me. I can fit very comfortably behind myself in the seating position. Lots of room in that second row. In the trunk, decent amount of space as well, but as you know, there is that chassis brace that does prevent you from putting some bigger things through the trunk and into this passenger compartment through those rear folding seats. But as far as I'm concerned, it would work totally fine with me, at least with my snowboards and maybe my golf clubs. Visibility is fantastic as well. Love the outboard mirrors. You adjust those properly, and blind spots are a myth. And of course, parking is helped by parking sensors and cameras to make parking this thing anywhere very, very easy. Yep. Now, in terms of performance, this is pretty quick in a straight line, and it is assisted by two things. One is the Michelin Pilot Sport 4S's. They're just incredibly grippy, so no trouble putting power down to the ground, but also that electronically controlled limited slip diff does an excellent job in every situation. In any kind of driving condition I've been enjoying this Elantra N in, it has been flawless. This diff is incredible. The way it works, the way it delivers power to each wheel. Torque steer is not a thing, and it just delivers power perfectly, whether we're accelerating in a straight line or powering out of corners. It does that perfectly. This will do 0 to 60 in 5.1 seconds, and that's with the manual. Yes, the dual clutch is quicker if that's your thing, but I don't think that's really what this Elantra N is all about. This manual is so good. This should really be the spec. But yes, the dual clutch is a little bit quicker in a straight line, and that's just fine. What I do find, and I've spent a lot of time with this 24 Elantra N, is that I'm short shifting this a lot. What that means is I'm really not revving it up to redline because it's not necessary. It develops peak torque at under 1500 RPM, so it's very easy to rely on the torque, and it's kind of unnecessary to rev it all the way to redline, although we have many times. But in day-to-day driving, you can just rely on all of that torque to deliver the acceleration you're looking for. Makes this very easy to live with on a day-to-day basis. And yes, the exhaust does make some funny noises, which does look funny when you've got a beard that's mostly gray, but to be fair, I do drive it around with the exhaust on the full loud mode, and it is a lot of fun. It's just enough. It's not offensive like some of those aftermarket tunes. I actually enjoy it when it is making a little bit of extra noise with those pops and bangs and burbles. I think it adds a little bit of character to this Elantra N. What I really dig about this gearbox is the shift action. It is on the light side, but the gates are very well defined. The ratios are well chosen. It's like it's a close ratio design and works perfectly for this car. It's absolutely spot on. Really dig that. Clutch feel is quite good as well. It's very clear what's going on with the clutch pedal when you're using it. Really appreciate it that way. Could be a little sharper, but if I'm going to score it out of 10, I would definitely give clutch feel and actuation a solid 8 for sure. And on the subject of heel and toe, I've got a couple things I should mention. It doesn't seem to matter what kind of footwear I've got. I am wearing skate shoes typically when I drive cars, and they're nice and wide enough for me to reach between the brake pedal and the throttle when I want to blip that throttle. Throttle response is excellent for heel and toe, but the rev matching is so good in this Elantra N that oftentimes I'm tempted to leave it on, but I often don't, just as a matter of principle. I want to do all of the heel and toe downshifts on my own. When it comes to handling, that's what this Elantra N is all about. Now, it's been a while since we've driven one and looked at it in any particular depth, but some of the refinements, especially when it comes to steering and responsiveness, promise to be a little bit better. It's been so long that I kind of don't have a point of reference, but again, I can't complain about how the steering works. It's quicker than any other Elantra, which is awesome, but what I do find is that lock-to-lock is a little bit reduced from other Elantras, and you've got a longer turning radius. So what could be a U-turn in a regular Elantra does become a 3-point turn in this N. Now, when it comes to steering, I have zero complaints. I love the quicker rack here. I love its responsiveness. Certainly the Michelin Pilot Sports help with all of that, but really can't complain about the steering at all. And when I'm on top of the car having fun in the corners, it does exactly what I want. It's a proper driver's car in that respect. Similarly, brakes are excellent as well. Even though these aren't fancy 4-piston Brembos on this car, braking is excellent. Probably a lot has to do with the pad choice. The pads are aggressive, definitely oriented towards more performance-oriented driving, and really, really dig the way the brakes work. I've got excellent feel, control, modulation, and what I find is when I'm in the corners, I can really control the attitude of this Elantra N with that brake pedal. For example, on corner entry, I can really control the attitude and the balance of this N just with the brake pedal alone. And that also has to do with how this chassis is set up and how the suspension is balanced, which we'll talk about in a little bit. Now, we should find some corners, shall we? Well, let's. Yes, and here we go. Turn in, little throttle, downshift to second, exit the corner on power, shift up to third. Just brilliant. Car feels so well planted. Turns in just like I want. Pick up the throttle, corner, exit, upshift. This is such an incredible dance partner in the corners. Does exactly what I want it to do. This definitely is a driver's car. Great balance through that corner. Little off camber and a little nasty, but I've got such great feel through the chassis, a little bit of feel through the steering wheel, that I get all the information that I need to hustle this through corners and play with it at and around its limits. It is so well balanced. It's very, very neutral for a front wheel drive car. It doesn't surprise me with induced understeer, although that may have to do with my ability to hustle a front wheel drive car, but this electronically controlled limited slip diff is just fantastic. in terms of the way it puts down power and responds to my throttle inputs. Oftentimes with multi-mode dampers like this, you find that their modes aren't differentiated from one another, but in this case, in this 24 Elantra N, they certainly are. There's a big difference between the comfort mode and its most aggressive mode. I think the most aggressive mode should be reserved for track work, at least in this part of the world, because the road surfaces are so terrible. Where the dampers shine is with body and wheel control. Very impressed that way. And there's no unnecessary secondary movement whatsoever. That was a bit of a bump, and the body motion is perfectly well controlled. And on these roads, when I am in the softer suspension setting, the tire's always in contact with the road. These just do a fantastic job of making sure that this car is planted to the road and you've got all the confidence to play with this in the corners. Overall, this is very much a driver's car. It all comes together. The drivetrain, the suspension, steering, braking, it all comes together and is a very harmonious package, making this an incredibly well-sorted front-wheel drive performance car. How do you spec yours? Well, this is fairly easy because you don't have many choices when it comes to an Elantra N. What you are looking at is the 2024 model in signature performance blue with the one and only interior color, which of course is black. Base price in the US is $33,700. Performance blue paint is $470. And as tested, this is $34,170 US. In Canada, base price is $39,399 plus $250 for the performance blue paint, for an as-tested price of $39,649, and that's before freight and local taxes. Your only option is the 8-speed wet dual-clutch gearbox. In the US, you'll pay $1,500 for that. In Canada, it's $1,600. After that, your only choice is exterior color, and what I would do with mine is get it in black, get rid of all the red trim, maybe put some silver wheels on it, and I'd be very happy with my Hyundai Elantra N. We don't have too many ultra-high performance front drivers anymore, but in the immediate competitive set, we have the Honda Civic Type R and, of course, its kissing cousin, the Acura Integra Type S. And after that, we're stretching some boundaries a bit to consider the Volkswagen GTI, which is a hatchback, though 2024 is the last year for the manual GTI, the Volkswagen Jetta GLI, and stretching a bit further, we could also throw in the Toyota GR Corolla and the Subaru WRX into the mix. My verdict, well, because this is an Elantra, maybe we'll start this with fuel consumption. And as much as I've been enjoying myself, it's still fairly fuel efficient overall in mixed highway, city, and just outright fun driving. I'm averaging about 25 miles per gallon, about 10 liters per 100 kilometers for my Canadian friends. And that's one of the upsides to driving this Elantra N. It's surprisingly fuel efficient. I wasn't really expecting that. Maybe I'd forgotten, but it's so fuel efficient that it could just run on sunshine and rainbows. But as a performance car, this is a formidable thing. And here's the thing. If you're talking about a sleeper, obviously it's not a sleeper in this bright performance blue paint with contrasting black and red coloring. I would definitely get my Elantra N in black, get rid of the red, maybe throw some silver wheels on this thing, and that would be just the perfect understated Elantra N. Definitely in the sleeper category in that kind of configuration. But if you're looking for a car that is very, very practical and can suit a small family, as well as perhaps capable of outrunning the police, well, look no further than this. And come on, I mean, this thing is so fun to drive, you might actually forget how to walk. And one of the things, in case you don't know, we've covered this before, Hyundai brought on Albert Biermann from BMW's M division to take care of all of this stuff, improve their cars dynamically, and this is one of his projects, and it definitely shows. It is incredibly well sorted. It's a formidable front-wheel drive performance sedan, and I have nothing but good things to say about this. I love driving Elantra Ns. I love driving the Ns, the genuine Ns from Hyundai. They're just so satisfying to drive, and this one in particular is my favorite. Thanks for hanging out with me today and having a look at this 2024 Hyundai Elantra N. Hope you liked this episode, and if you did, well, you're not new, you know what to do. Smash the subscribe button, turn on your notifications, like this, and as always, sharing is caring, so please share this with your friends, especially on Reddit, because on Reddit, they really need to see reviews for drivers, from drivers. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them in the comments below. I'll get back to you as soon as I can. And if you want to support the channel, please hit up the merch store. Links here, links below. Lots of great stuff for driving enthusiasts like us, including our very popular line of Save the Manuals merch. Thanks again for watching. We'll see you again next time. And remember, cars don't understeer by themselves, not even Hyundai Elantra Ns. And if you've hung around this long, well, I invite you to have a look at an interesting episode we did with the 2022 Hyundai Elantra N, I believe, and that's with my Hyundai racing friends. We went for a drive in Northern California and absolutely had a blast. They definitely have a different perspective, and yes, all three of us are on board in that episode. So have a look at that one. Hope you enjoy.